When you think of Jesus, you might believe you already know everything there is to know. After all, his life has been studied, preached, and shared for over 2,000 years. But what if I told you there are aspects of his life that most people completely overlook? These aren't just minor details. They're game changers that can transform how you see Jesus, God, and the Bible. Whether it's his unique nature that bridges the gap between heaven and earth, or the astonishing fact that he never wrote a single word of Scripture, these truths are sure to challenge your understanding. Imagine discovering the real stories behind his miracle, the stress he endured, and the family ties that shaped his ministry. Each of these 8 facts will not only deepen your knowledge, but also bring you closer to a more personal and profound connection with Jesus. Are you ready to dive into the lesser-known truths about the Son of God? Let's uncover the mysteries together. When you think about Jesus, it's essential to understand that he was no ordinary man or mere teacher. He was both the Son of God and God himself, a profound mystery that the Bible reveals with clarity and awe. Imagine having a mentor who isn't just wise, but embodies wisdom itself. A teacher who doesn't just speak about God, but is God. This unique nature of Jesus isn't something to take lightly. It's the cornerstone of faith. Millions. It's like having access to the source of all knowledge, a direct line to the divine. Jesus' divinity isn't just a lofty concept. It's deeply practical. Think about how this impacts your daily life. When you face challenges, knowing that God walked this earth, as Jesus gives you a tangible connection to the divine. It's like having a friend who understands your struggles from first-hand experience. Jesus, as both God and man, bridges the gap between heaven and earth, making the divine accessible in a way that no other teacher could. Now consider the implications of Jesus being God in human form. This isn't just about religious doctrine, it's about the very fabric of reality. The Bible tells us that through Jesus, all things were made. So, when you read about Jesus in the Bible, you're not just learning about a historical figure, but encountering the Creator himself. This means that every teaching, every miracle, is an expression of God's love and power. As you delve deeper into understanding Jesus, remember that his nature is a mystery that invites exploration. It's like uncovering layers of truth, each more profound than the last. And this exploration isn't just academic, personal. It invites you to see your life through the lens of Jesus' divinity, transforming your understanding of who God is and who you are in relation to him. This sets the stage for understanding the close relationships he had with his disciples, particularly with John, a friend who stood by him through thick and thin. Among all the disciples, John held a special place in Jesus' heart. He wasn't just another follower. He was the closest friend of Jesus, the one who leaned on him during the Last Supper. Imagine having a bond so strong. You're not just a disciple, but a confidant, brother in spirit. John, a simple fisherman, was chosen to be part of this inner circle, showing that God values the heart over status or profession. This friendship is a reminder that Jesus, while being God, cherished deep, personal relationships. John's closeness to Jesus teaches us a valuable lesson about intimacy with God. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being present, willing to listen, and ready to love. John was the one who stood by the cross, witnessing the suffering of his friend and Savior. This kind of loyalty and love is something that transcends time, offering a model for how we can cultivate our relationship with God today. Think of your own friendships and how they reflect, even imperfectly, the closeness John had with Jesus. This connection between Jesus and John also illustrates the human side of Jesus. Even though he was God, he valued companionship, showing us that deep relationships are not just a human need, but a divine example. When you seek to grow closer to God, remember that he desires to be as close to you as he was to John. It's like having the ultimate mentor, who is also your closest friend. guiding you through life's challenges with both wisdom and love. The friendship between Jesus and John wasn't just about the moments they shared, but also about the legacy they left. John went on to write several books of the Bible, passing down the wisdom and experiences he gained from walking with Jesus. This friendship wasn't just for a season, it shaped John's entire life and continues to inspire believers today. And as we explore more about Jesus, we'll see how his life, though deeply personal, had an impact far beyond his immediate circle, including the fact that he never authored any of the Bible's books himself. It's fascinating to realize that Jesus, despite his immense wisdom and authority, never wrote a single book of the Bible. Think about that for a moment. Jesus, who had the ability to articulate divine truths like no other, chose not to pen a single word of Scripture. Instead, he taught through his life, actions, and spoken words, leaving the writing to his followers. This is a powerful example of humility and trust, showing that God's message can be carried forward by those he inspires, rather than by his own hand. This decision not to write speaks volumes about the nature of Jesus' ministry. He focused on living the message rather than merely recording it. His teachings were so impactful, they were etched into the hearts of those who heard them, eventually being written down by his disciples. Imagine the trust Jesus had in his followers, knowing that they would faithfully convey his words and deeds to future generations. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound impacts are made not through what we write, through how we live. The fact that Jesus didn't write the Bible also emphasizes the collaborative nature of God's work. The Bible is a collection of voices, all inspired by God, but each bringing a unique perspective. Jesus' choice to let others record his teachings invites us to consider how God uses each of us, with our distinct talents and experiences, contribute to his greater plan. It's like being part of a divine orchestra where every instrument, no matter how small, plays a crucial role in the symphony. As you reflect on Jesus' decision not to write, think about how you can contribute to God's work in your own way. Maybe you're not called to write books, but your actions, words, and relationships can be a living testimony of God's love. Just as Jesus entrusted his disciples to spread his message, he entrusts us today to continue that legacy. And as we continue exploring the life of Jesus, we'll discover how even his family ties were deeply interwoven with his mission and message. It's intriguing to note that several of Jesus' disciples were actually his relatives. This detail adds a layer of depth to the relationships he had with his followers, showing that his ministry was not just about gathering strangers, but also about involving those closest to him. Imagine the dynamic of having family members among his disciples, people who knew him not just as the Messiah, but as a relative. This closeness highlights the human side of Jesus, where family ties were woven into his divine mission. Having family among the disciples wasn't just a coincidence. It served to strengthen the bond and trust within his inner circle. These relatives had likely grown up with Jesus, seen him in everyday life, and now followed him as he revealed his divine purpose. This connection underscores the idea that God often works through family, using those close to us to fulfill his plan. It's a reminder that your own family can be a source of spiritual support and a crucial part of your faith journey. Jesus' inclusion of his relatives among the disciples also reflects the importance of loyalty and trust. These were people who would have known Jesus intimately, seen his character up close, and were therefore well equipped to carry forward his teaching. It's like having a team where the members not only share a mission, but also share a deep personal connection. This level of trust is vital in any endeavor, especially one as significant as spreading the gospel. As you think about the role of family in Jesus' ministry, consider how your own family can be part of your spiritual journey, whether through shared faith, mutual support, or or simply being there for each other, family can play a crucial role in your relationship with God. And as we continue to explore Jesus' life, we'll see how his actions, from fulfilling prophecies to performing miracles, further cemented his identity as both fully God and fully man. The life of Jesus was not an ordinary one, and this is evident in the many prophecies and miracles that surrounded his existence. Long before he was born, prophets in the Old Testament foretold details about his life, his birthplace in Bethlehem, his lineage from David, and even the manner of his death. These prophecies weren't just predictions, they were divine markers, pointing to the significance of Jesus' mission on earth. Imagine reading the Bible and discovering that these ancient words perfectly aligned with the life of Jesus, affirming that he was indeed the promised Messiah. The fulfillment of these prophecies was only part of what made Jesus' life extraordinary. His miracles, such as turning water into wine, walking on water, and raising the dead, were not just displays of power, but revelations of his divine nature. Each miracle served a purpose, often illustrating a deeper spiritual truth. For instance, when Jesus turned water into wine at the wedding in Cana, it wasn't just about saving a celebration. It symbolized the transformation he brings into our lives, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. These miracles were more than just events. They were signs that pointed to Jesus' identity as the Son of God. They weren't performed for show, but to reveal God's power and compassion. When you consider these miracles, think about how they apply to your own life. They remind us that God is still capable of the miraculous, whether it's in grand, visible ways or through the quiet, unseen workings in our heart. Believing in Jesus means trusting that the same God who performed these miracles is actively working in your life today. As you reflect on the prophecies and miracles, remember that they are not just historical events, but part of a living faith. They connect us to the divine narrative that continues to unfold in our lives. This connection leads us to explore another aspect of Jesus' life, his humble beginnings as a carpenter, which shaped not only his work but also his approach to life and ministry. Before Jesus began his public ministry, he spent years as a carpenter, a trade he likely learned from Joseph, his earthly father. This profession wasn't just a means of livelihood. It was a formative experience that shaped his character and approach to life. Imagine the patience, precision, and dedication required to craft something with your hands, qualities that Jesus would later apply to his ministry. The fact that the Son of God chose to work in such a humble trade speaks volumes about his humility and his connection to everyday people. Carpentry, in many ways, prepared Jesus for his ministry. The work required attention to detail, a strong work ethic, and a commitment to excellence, all traits that he demonstrated throughout his life. When you think of Jesus as a carpenter, it's easy to see how this background influenced his teachings. He often used simple, relatable examples from everyday life, making profound spiritual truths accessible to everyone. It's like learning from a teacher who understands your world, speaking to you in a language you can grasp. This aspect of Jesus' life also reminds us that God values all kinds of work, no matter how ordinary it may seem. Jesus didn't start his life as a rabbi or a scholar. He started as a craftsman, shaping wood into useful objects. This should encourage us to see the divine in our own daily work, recognizing that every task, no matter how mundane, can be an act of worship and service. Just as Jesus' carpentry laid the foundation for his ministry, our work can lay the groundwork for how we serve God and others. As you reflect on Jesus' life as a carpenter, consider how your own work, whatever it may be, fits into God's bigger plan. Whether you're building something with your hands or contributing in another way, your work matters to God. And just as Jesus used his skills to connect with people and teach them about God's kingdom, we too can use our talents to make a difference. This leads us naturally to the beginning of his public ministry. marked by his first miracle at the wedding in Cana. The first miracle Jesus performed, turning water into wine at a wedding in Cana, is one of the most well-known events in the Bible. This wasn't just a miraculous act. It was the moment that marked the beginning of his public ministry. Imagine being at that wedding, where the celebration was about to be overshadowed by a shortage of wine, a potential social disaster in those times. But Jesus, at the request of his mother, stepped in and transformed the situation, showing his power and compassion in a way that would leave a lasting impression on all who witnessed. This miracle wasn't just about saving a party. It was a profound demonstration of Jesus' divine authority. By turning water into wine, he revealed his control over the natural world, subtly yet unmistakably declaring his identity as the Son of God. It's like witnessing a glimpse of the divine in an everyday situation, where something ordinary is transformed into something extraordinary. This act also symbolizes the transformative power of Jesus in our lives, how he can take the mundane, the routine, and turn it into something filled with joy and meaning. The significance of this miracle goes beyond the event itself. It was a sign, a foreshadowing of the greater things Jesus would do during his ministry. It also highlighted the importance of faith and obedience. Mary, Jesus' mother, demonstrated her trust in him by instructing the servants to do whatever he told them, even when the request seemed strange. This teaches us that faith often requires us to act in trust, even when we don't fully understand the outcome. It's a reminder that when we invite Jesus into our situations, no matter how dire or trivial, he has the power to bring about a miraculous change. As you think about this first miracle, consider the areas in your life where you need transformation. Just as Jesus brought new life to that wedding celebration, he can bring renewal to any part of your life that feels empty or lacking. This miracle is just the beginning of the many ways Jesus demonstrated his divine power, leading us to consider the intense challenges he faced, particularly in the moments leading up to his crucifixion. In the moments leading up to his crucifixion, Jesus experienced a level of stress so intense that he sweat blood, a condition known as hematidrosis. This wasn't just a metaphorical expression. It was a real physical response to the overwhelming anguish he felt as he faced the impending crucifixion. Imagine the weight of carrying not just the knowledge of his own suffering, the sins of the entire world. This extreme stress is a powerful testament to Jesus' humanity, showing that even the Son of God wasn't immune to the deepest levels of human anxiety and fear. This event in the Garden of Gethsemane highlights the profound emotional and physical toll that Jesus endured. It's a moment that many of us can relate to, albeit on a smaller scale. Times when the pressures of life seem almost unbearable. Yet, even in this intense moment of suffering, Jesus chose to submit to God's will, demonstrating incredible strength and faith. His experience reminds us that, in our darkest hours, we too can find solace in turning to God, trusting that his plan is ultimately for our good, even when it's hard to see. The image of Jesus sweating blood is a powerful symbol of his willingness to endure the utmost suffering for the sake of humanity. It wasn't just the physical pain of the crucifixion that he dreaded, but the spiritual burden of taking on the sins of the world. This act of ultimate sacrifice is at the heart of the Christian faith, reminding us of the depth of God's love for us. It's a love so profound that it led Jesus to endure unimaginable pain, all to offer us the gift of salvation. As you reflect on this moment of extreme stress in Jesus' life, consider how his experience speaks to your own struggles. It's a reminder that no matter how intense our suffering, we are not alone. Jesus understands our pain on the deepest level, and his example encourages us to persevere, trusting in God's plan. This reflection on his humanity and divinity completes our exploration of Jesus' life, leaving us with a profound appreciation who he is and what he has done for us. As you've journeyed through these fascinating aspects of Jesus' life, it's clear that there's so much more to him than what meets the eye. But the real question is, what will you do with this newfound knowledge? Will it be just another interesting fact? Or will it be the spark that ignites a deeper relationship with God? Think about the impact of truly understanding Jesus' unique nature, profound miracle, and the immense stress he bore for our sake. These aren't just stories. They're calls to action, invitations to live a life more closely aligned with his teachings. So I challenge you to take a step further. Reflect on what you've learned and consider how it can change your life today. And if you want to keep exploring these powerful truths, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Together we can continue uncovering the incredible depth of the Bible and growing in our. The journey doesn't end here. It's just the beginning.